The more massive the store, the better. The more apps you have, the more connected and fulfilled. Basically, the more you have and the more choices you're offered, the better. I find this fast food value so strange because to me, when I have too much stuff or have too many choices, I get overwhelmed and I feel burdened by it. And there's no room for discernment. There's just weight and volume. And at Chez Panisse, we used to be criticized so much for just having one menu. But it was the only way that I could simplify things and guide people towards what I wanted them to taste and to feel and to know. And now people look forward to coming for the menu so they can focus on tasting something that they would never have chosen for themselves, something that surprises them and delights them. Well, some fast food values can be more abstract and elusive, like terminology, for instance, or how it's used or misused, and the confusion around it. I mean, what does organic mean these days? Natural, for that matter. What does local mean, really? Or fair trade and fresh? It seems that these terms have been hijacked. And they seem to fluctuate and have more to do with marketing and presentation than with any attempt to clarify or inform. And what's scarier is how fast these terms are hijacked. When we find a new term that works for us, like sustainability, well, it gets grabbed immediately by fast food culture and is used everywhere indiscriminately. And in no time, the term becomes cloudy and misleading, if not meaningless. There are many other such slippery terms that I'm aware of. How about pesticide-free or FDA-approved? And how about free range? Behind the issue of terminology is the issue of standards. What standards are we really using, and where did they come from? There seems to be standards, but they don't mean anything. Or worse, they reduce standards, like food companies who lobby to get chemicals considered natural ingredients in their products. In other cases, it seems to me, we're too willing to compromise or change our standards or abandon them altogether. Now, we serve filtered water at Chez Panisse mainly because we found that what the government considers safe, we're not so sure about. And take the term grass-fed. You know, this is a term for animals that we're talking about that can be grass-fed only 2 weeks out of their lives. In so many cases, it's kind of a lie. Another fast food value, dishonesty. Perhaps that's the biggest one of all. I saw a bumper sticker a while ago, and it said, if I am what I eat, then I'm fast, cheap, and easy. Well, I don't think it could be said any better than that. And so there is a fast food culture, and yet it permeates, it permeates every aspect of our lives. But fortunately, there is an antidote, and I call it, no surprise, slow food culture. Well, slow food culture is not as flashy or as aggressive as fast food culture, but it's just as powerful and just as enticing. It's a richer, deeper, truly life-affirming and fulfilling culture, one with customs and practices cultivated over centuries, since the beginning of civilization. It's a culture connected to nature, and one that organizes itself instinctively around nature's cycles and patterns and lessons. It's a universal culture. We've just left it behind. And slow food culture, like fast food culture, has its own set of values. And no surprise, they're called slow food values. You know them innately. ripeness, aliveness, beauty, awareness, interconnectedness, patience, integrity, community, friendship, honesty, respect. These are civilized, earthbound values, and they grow out of intimate, sensually engaged activities. Through them, we connect to and aspire to create a life and a culture that is naturally nurturing and enriching and joyful and truly sustainable. Fast food values are alien to our beings. They're foisted upon us from the outside, starting in preschool, with the help of advertising and indoctrination. Signs of these values are everywhere, as you know, on our televisions, in our freeways, and along the airports, in our homes, in our aesthetics. But thankfully, slow food values are intrinsic to us. We're born with them. They're part of our bodies, part of our biological makeup, at the very core of our essence. Slow food values are actually the things that guide us to behave in ways that make our lives meaningful and compassionate. They've just been covered up, deadened by the assault of fast food culture around us. And when we eat fast food, we ingest these values of the fast food culture, and it changes our behavior, our structures, and it changes our lives. So this is why I believe so profoundly in edible education. So by placing food and food concerns at the center of the curriculum of the whole school, exposures to slow food values happens naturally and democratically in the course of each student's day. A new kind of living and learning becomes, as Michael Pollan might say, second nature to all students. And the best news of all, if you ask me, is that schools can create sustainable support networks beyond themselves. Think about it. 20% of our population goes to school. Imagine what would happen if we adopted sustainable criteria for the buying of the food in the whole public school system, including the universities. Not only would we be educating the next generation into a new, delicious way of eating and learning, but the schools themselves and the universities would become alternative economic engines for the farms and the ranches surrounding them. And they would automatically provide political and social support system for farm workers across the nation. And the core of this, its very foundation, has to be a radically reimagined school lunch program. One with no fast food concessions in sight. One where every child gathers together around a table. A free, sustainable, delicious, and nutritious school lunch offered to every child. Eating this way would not only encourage the expression of slow food values in every student's life, but it would teach them every day that the way they feed themselves is just as important and integral to their lives as anything that they are learning in school. It would show them in a profound way that they're deeply cared for. Now, Gloria Steinem, she said something to me a number of years ago that really empowered me. She said, public education is our last truly democratic institution. And I know she's right. Everyone goes to school, or should. It's our common place in our culture where we can reach every student while they're still open and learning. It's our place of equality in this country. It really is, or it should be. And I feel deep in my heart that schools are the place where we can make deep and lasting change. And we can make this by going right through the cafeteria door. So thank you. Thank you.
Few preparations here. The world is coming forward here. Good evening, and Bob, thank you for that very kind and generous introduction. And thank you all for this wonderful opportunity to be here with you this evening. It's a tremendous honor. I think my favorite spot is the UC system, and I love coming to Berkeley. I graduated from UC Davis, so that has a special place in my mind as well. President Napolitano, you have often mentioned that the food arena is a big tent, and you couldn't be more accurate. It's a tremendous one.